So in section 1.3, find the distance between 2 points and also find the midpoint of a segment. New vocabulary is going to be distance, midpoint, segment bisector. So distance form on a number line is pretty simple. It's just going to be the absolute value of the difference of the two values of x. So we can show this through an example. So we have then Q and R, and so what we can do, we want to find the distance. We actually could count, right? We can say, oh, it's 1, 2, 3, but we could say that it's going to be -3 subtract a -6 absolute value, or we could say it's -6 and we're going to subtract a -3 absolute value. In either case, we're going to get a +3 absolute value here. Here we're going to get the absolute value of a -3, but either way, it's just the answer of 3. Or, since we could have just counted, we could have said 1, 2, 3. Use the number line to find AX. Go ahead and pause your video and find the length of AX. Pretty simple, it's just 8. Distance is 8. Now, we're going to move on, actually finding distance that's going to be at a diagonal, right, or just 2 points in the coordinate plane. And we're going to use the equation here. Okay, this is the difference of the x coordinates. Sometimes they say delta x, and then we're going to take the delta y, the change in y's, and we're going to square these. Then we're going to add them and then take the square root. So we'll find the distance between -4, 1 and 3, -1. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our square root, and we're going to look for the difference between a -4 and a 3. Well, the difference between those two is 7. They are 7 apart. And so we're going to take 7 and we're going to square it. And then the 1 and the -1, those are 2 apart. So we're going to take those and we're going to square the 2. So we're going to get 49 plus 4, or the square root of 53. And we could approximate that to be about 7.28 if you use a calculator. And the actual distance, as you probably saw in Mathia, right, is based on the Pythagorean theorem. All right, go ahead and find the distance between -3, 4 and 1, 2. Please pause your video. Ends up with the square root of 20. All right, so we have midpoint formula. Midpoint formula is pretty straightforward, where it says if you have 2 points, okay, on a number line, then the midpoint is just adding up the two values of x and then dividing by 2. Okay, so in this real world example, we have, I guess, a wall. And then we're placing a couch that's 90 inches wide, 2.5 feet from the wall. So let's call this 2.5 feet. And then the couch is 90 inches wide. And we convert that into feet. That's 7.5 feet. So 7.5 plus 2.5 is 10. So this is at 10 feet, and this end of the couch is at 2.5 feet from the wall. And we're trying to find the midpoint. So we're going to add our 10 plus our 2.5, which is 12.5, and divide by 2, and we should have 6.25 feet. The midpoint is from the wall. All right, the length of a drag racing strip is 1/4 mile long. How many feet from the finish line is the midpoint of the racing strip. So first of all, we need to figure out, we'll do this one together. We have 5,280 feet. 5,280 feet in a mile, and a fourth of that, we can divide this by 4, and that would tell us then how long that this is going to be in terms of the race strip. And so let's do this. Okay, and then this gives me a 2, and then a 0. So 1,320 is the number of feet that our race strip is. But we're going to start at 0, right? And then we're going to end at 1320. So the midpoint would be to add 0 to 1320 and divide by 2, or just divide 1320 by 2. So the answer should be 660. All right, midpoint formula. When you have a ordered pairs, basically a ordered pair midpoint is just going to be doing the same thing as we did before, except for we're going to do the same thing for the y's as we did the x's. So we're going to find the midpoint of the x and the midpoint for the y. So we're going to find the midpoint of 8, -6, and -14, 12. Well, let's put the x's together. 8 plus -14 divided by 2, and that's my x. And then we're going to take the y, -6 plus 12 divided by 2. And we get a ordered pair. 8 plus -14 is -6, and -6 divided by 2 is -3. And then -6 plus 12 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my midpoint should be -3, 3. All right, find the coordinates of the midpoint segment of xy if x and y are -2, 3, and -8, -9. This is a check your progress, so please pause your video. The answer is -5, -3. All right, now we're going to find the coordinates of an endpoint. So find the coordinates of D if -6, 4 is the midpoint and of DF, and F has the coordinates -5, -3. So what we're saying is we have an unknown value of x and y, and that's going to be my other endpoint. And so let's see here. We have so this is the midpoint. Okay, so we know -6 can be found, right, by taking -5 plus x and dividing by 2. We also know that 4 can be found by taking -3 plus or y and dividing by 2. So we're going to double both sides of our left equation here, and you get -12 is equal to -5 plus x, and then add 5 to both sides. So you get -7 equals x. And then we can do the same thing for y. We can say 8 is equal to -3 plus y, and then add 3 to both sides, and we have 11 is equal to y. So that's one way of doing it, showing all your work. All right, check your progress. Please pause your video and find the coordinates of R. The answer is 17, -11. All right, what is the measure of line segment PR if Q is the midpoint? Okay, what that means is the length of 6 minus 3x should be exactly half of the PR length. So half of the 14x plus 2 would be 7x plus 1. Then I'm going to add 3x to both sides, and I get 10x. And then I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides and get a 5. Then I'm going to divide by 10. I get 1/2 then equals x. So what's the measure of PR? Well, line segment PR is 14x plus 2. So half of 14 is 7, and 7 plus 2 is 9. All right, last example here. What's the measure of line segment AC if B is the midpoint of line segment AC? Now pause the video and solve. Good, the answer is 3. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10, and 2 times 3 is 6 minus 1 is 5. You actually could just check them by just plugging them in and seeing which one it was.